Hello everyone, welcome back. And where do Barcelona go from here? Obviously, it hasn't been the best week for Barcelona with losses to PSG to knock them out of the Champions League, and then of course a loss in the last couple minutes in a Clasico. So definitely not the most productive week for Barcelona, definitely not the most productive season. Obviously, it looks very likely that Barcelona are going to go trophyless, and I think there are going to be a lot of changes that are going to need to be made in the summer if Barcelona want to get back to their best next season. So I'm just going to talk about all of that in this video. And the biggest thing that is unavoidable for Barcelona is you have to figure out who the next coach is. There have been some reports that Xavi seems like he's possibly going to stay at Barcelona next season. We don't know if Laporta has convinced him. Maybe he saw how the season went and he's just not satisfied with the ending, so he wants to try again next season. We don't really know the reasoning, but for me, Laporta, I don't know if he's had an entire game plan all along that he's going to keep Xavi no matter what. But I just think this coaching situation, I felt like it could have been planned out a little bit better, but we don't know what's going on because we're all on the outside. We just see the reports going in, but I don't know. It seems likely that Xavi, he might be staying for one more season, and to be honest, I don't think that would be the worst thing for Barcelona. And don't get me wrong, Xavi has made a lot of mistakes this season, but I think we knew that going into signing Xavi because he didn't have the experience that a lot of other top coaches have, and especially in the Champions League. You know, that experience, it's crucial in this competition, but I think last year, the referees in that Inter Milan game, Barcelona, they easily could have went on to the knockout stages, but I think the referee was the reason for that. I don't think it was Xavi. He did make some mistakes, but we can't forget the refereeing decisions. And then also in PSG, it was an individual mistake from a Barcelona player. It was not Xavi setting up the team wrong, in my opinion. So I do understand some people maybe saying that Barcelona, they didn't accomplish as much as they could have this season, and Xavi, yes, has made some mistakes along the way, but I don't think any coach is going to be perfect. If it's Pep Guardiola, yeah, I would basically trust him to say, do whatever you want to do. But Xavi, I think we have to have some leniency, and we can't expect perfection from him. I think he's done a decent job so far, and I don't think we can forget that, just based on how this season has gone. And just a reminder that it was reported Xavi was asking for other players to be signed last summer. He was asking for Zubamendi to try and replace Busquets. It ended up getting Oriol Romeu, which it hasn't worked out in that regard. And then he also asked for Bernardo Silva. That didn't happen. I think he also asked for another attacker and said Laporta, I think he signed João Felix, and that seemed like what Laporta wanted to do instead of what Xavi wanted to do. But again, we just know what's happening on the outside. We can't say exactly what's going on day to day, what Xavi exactly asked for. But I still think Xavi had more than enough signings in the summer to have a better season. We can't brush over the fact that this season has been very underwhelming, and Xavi, he's made a lot of mistakes this season, in my opinion. And I just think it took so long to figure out that Barcelona, they needed to play with a defensive midfielder. Christensen, I think, has made a huge difference in that regard. But still, I think Xavi, he's definitely made a lot of mistakes this season. We can't forget about that. But for Laporta, for Barcelona, maybe the entire plan is to wait until 2025. Maybe there are going to be other potential coaching candidates that Barcelona want to wait for. And so if Xavi stays for one more season, I'm not going to be really mad at that. Some Barcelona fans think maybe the plan is signing Jurgen Klopp in 2025. Maybe Barcelona keeps Xavi for one more year, he stays at the club, and then when Jurgen Klopp is available, because he said he wanted some time off, he's not going to get another coaching job in the summer, maybe he has that time off, and potentially he would want to come join the club. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I don't know if that's really something Barcelona should be banking on happening, but that's definitely an interesting idea. And if it all works out like that Xavi stays at Barcelona for one more year, and then the coaching options are a lot better in 2025, and then they pick a top quality coach to take the club forward for a couple years beyond that, I don't think that's the worst idea. But again, it's difficult to bank on Jurgen Klopp being available in 2025. We don't really know what's going to happen, but I think keeping Xavi, it might be the best alternative right now, because the other shout right now is Rafa Marquez from the B team. Is that really going to improve Barcelona? I mean, I can't say for sure, but I wouldn't mind Xavi staying for one more year. I don't know what you all think about that, but I just don't see a clear candidate in the summer to replace him other than Julian Nagelsmann, Thiago Motta. Those are exciting ideas, but it doesn't seem like Barcelona are linked to them. So would Xavi staying for one more year really be the worst thing? I don't think so. And that brings me into my next point is you have to figure out the coach before you make the summer signings that you need to be making. And there is work to be done in the summer. We don't know how much leeway Barcelona will have to make these big signings, and I'm not expecting any signing realistically over 50 million. I think that would be a long shot for Barcelona in the summer, but there are still signings that can be made. There's an improvement in the team that is going to be coming in the summer. Some players are going to have to be sold, but that's the reality of the sport, and that's how you progress, is you sell players that aren't doing enough, and you bring in players to revamp the squad and to make the positions that Barcelona need to be filling better. And the game plan for the summer is really important. I think all of us know the priority in the summer should be signing a defensive midfielder. I think Christensen is doing great in that position, but it would be nice to sign another player for that position and then also split time with Christensen, because you can't rely on Christensen to play every single game every week. Just not going to happen. And you know how obvious it is that Barcelona, they need a player in that position. I don't know if it's going to be Bernardo Silva. I think in terms of quality, that would add a lot to Barcelona, but I don't know if they can spend 50, 60 million on him. And that's the reality of it right now. It's a very difficult financial situation that Barcelona are going to have to navigate around, but there are signings that need to be made. So it's important to find the right coach to take Barcelona forward going into next season. As for Bernardo Silva, I did see a report today that it looks likely that he is going to be leaving City. Maybe this is the summer that he actually joins the club. We don't really know, but to see him as a right attacking midfielder, yes, that would be great in terms of quality and what he adds and his consistency. I feel like he's always able to play for Barcelona, or for Man City. He's always available. So that would be really nice. I did say in my last video a couple weeks ago that I don't think 60 million for Bernardo Silva, that would maybe be the right idea. If they can't sign any other player, yeah, you don't want to spend all of it on Bernardo Silva. No offense, he's a great player. He's one of the best in the world in his position. But there are some gaps that Barcelona need to fill. I think they do need to sign a left winger. They need to sign, of course, a defensive midfielder. Maybe some backup in the fullback positions. So there are some signings that the club needs to make. And Bernardo Silva, of course, he would add a lot of quality. I would love to see him in a Barcelona jersey. But if Barcelona, they don't have the finances available to spend big on a player, I would understand them missing out on that signing. But if they have 60 million available, yeah, I mean, Bernardo Silva would be a great addition to the club. And another player I wanted to talk about was João Cancelo, because I think before these past 2-3 games, it was a guarantee that Barcelona fans wanted him to sign permanently in the summer. Around 15 million for, I think, one of the best in the world in his position. Yeah, that seems like a great signing, but wow, these performances in the past 2 games. I feel bad. I don't want to slander a player of the club, but just horrible performances, to be honest. There's no way around him. I think I want to say like 4 goals directly from that spot, from that position, where he just wasn't guarding the back post. Dembele was in, Lucas Vazquez was in, and that horrible penalty decision against Dembele in the PSG game. Those are all really bad, mistakes from Cancelo. And yes, he has proven in the past 2 games that he is a huge defensive liability. And some Barcelona fans are going on Twitter and saying, oh, if Bayern didn't want him, if Man City didn't want him, then why should the club sign him? I don't think we should think like that, because I think Man City, they're one of the best teams in the world. I don't think, they are the best team in the world. Barcelona, they're not up to that standard right now, and so I don't think we should compare it like that. And sometimes it works out at one club and then it just doesn't at the other. I still think Cancelo has done positive over this entire season, but you have to admit, in these big games, you can't have a defensive liability that gives up 4 or 5 goals directly from that position. That just can't happen, and I'm sure he doesn't feel great about his performances in the past couple weeks. But yeah, they've been really poor, and there's no way around that. And the entire public opinion of Cancelo has completely shifted just based on 2 90-minute performances, where he has been one of Barcelona's most productive players going forward. I think he's been the spark that Barcelona have needed to open up a game sometimes. He plays the decisive pass. In that game against Porto, that was one of the best individual performances we've seen from a Barcelona player in a really long time. But those big games, you don't want a defensive liability on the field. And I think for me, it was up to Xavi to take Cancelo out, because it was so obvious that he was not doing well in both of those games. The PSG game I understood, because you can't exactly take him out because you already brought Inigo Martinez on, so unless you wanted to throw Hector Fort into that game, which probably wasn't a good idea. Yeah, I understand him not being taken out, but against Madrid, he had to be substituted. It was so obvious he was not up to that level, and defensively, he was just opening up a huge hole for Madrid, and they capitalized. All 3 goals, I think, came from that exact spot on Cancelo. So, yeah, that's a really poor performance. I understand some fans not wanting the club to sign him permanently, and yeah, I definitely think his future at the club is up in the air more so than ever because of these last 2 performances. And in these heavy defeats, I think we've seen it in the past that sometimes it motivates the president to make some moves in the summer, because I think the last 2 summers for Barcelona have been very productive, even though there have been financial restrictions. Signing players like Rafinha, Koundé, Lewandowski, Gundogan on a free transfer. I mean, Barcelona have made some really impressive signings, even with this financial situation that they're currently in. I hope this summer is another case of that, where they're able to find ways to still improve the squad, to not have to sell their very important players, and continue to grow as a club. Because I think if we look at where Barcelona were when Laporta took over, I mean, that squad that Ronald Koeman had was so bad, especially when Messi left. Man, that was horrible. So, of course, Barcelona are continuing in an upward progression, but you've got to work around this financial situation. And I still think Barcelona, there are definitely signings that need to be made in the summer, and I hope they were able to do that. And especially if Xavi stays, I hope he gets the players that he wants in the summer. And yeah, there are no ways around it. This season has been very underwhelming for the club, and you thought with the signings they made in the summer, the season was going to go very differently. You thought they were going to be one of the best teams in the world, but just hasn't been the case at all. They haven't had enough consistency this season, and there is work to be done in the summer. I'm sure Laporta knows that, and if the club decides to keep Xavi, I hope he's able to make the signings he wants to make in the summer. Y en este parte quiero practicar mi español porque Barcelona es en español y quiero aprender más. Si en el último parte en mi video quiero hablar en español ahora. Y si tú sabes español, quiero practicar en mis videos y en, I don't know the word for comments, but in the comments, if you would like to practice Spanish, that'd be great. I know I got a comment one time that someone was from Spain that wanted to practice their English, so maybe we can work together. That would be great. And as always, thank you very much for watching my video. I do appreciate it. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. And as always, Visca Barca. See you all later. Peace.